This is the second canto and the 5th chapter, verse 23. Mahatastu vikurvanat raja sattvo prabramhitat tama pradhanastvabhavat dravya jnana kriyatmaka. I shall repeat it once again. Mahatastu vikurvanat raja sattvo prabramhitat tama pradhanastvabhavat dravya jnana kriyatmaka. Would somebody like to read this verse?
Sure, Prabhuji.
You can unmute and go ahead, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Prabhuji, you will move to translation?
Would you like to read the verse? Or
Okay.
just...
Sure, sure. I'll give it a try.
Sure.
Mahatastu
Vikurva.
Vikurvat Raja Sattvo Pabhritat Tama Pradhana Tva Abhavat Dravya Jnana Kriyatmakaha.
That's it. And if you can read the translation as well, Prabhu.
Sure, Prabhu. Material activities are caused by the Mahat Tattvas being agitated. At first, there is a transformation of the modes of goodness and passion, and later, due to the mode of ignorance, matter, its knowledge, and different activities of material knowledge come into play.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Move to the next verse. So ahankara iti prokto vikurvan samabhutrida vaikarikastejashascha tamashacheti yadvidha dravya shakti kriya shaktir jnana shaktir iti Prabhu. Would anyone like to volunteer to read this verse and the translation?
Sloka will try again once, Prabhuji.
Okay, you can probably read the shloka, and I would like somebody else to read the translation.
Sure.
Sure, Prabhu.
Sohankara iti prokto vikurvan samabhutrida vaikarikas taijasascha tamasascheti yadvida dravya shaktir kriya shaktir jnana shaktir iti Prabhu.
Okay, can somebody read the translation, please? Anyone can just mute the mic and go ahead.
Yeah,
So that...
I'll go ahead.
Thank you.
The self-centered materialistic ego, thus being transformed into three features, becomes known as the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance in three divisions, namely the powers that evolve matter, knowledge of material creations, and the intelligence that guides such materialistic activities. Narada, you are quite competent to understand this.
Thank you so much, Sugata Prabhu. And to move on to the next verse. So then what we can do is somebody can try and be ready for the translation as I'll read this verse. Tamasadapi bhutadir vikurvanadabunnabha tasya matra guna shabdo lingam yatrishtirdrishtayo. Okay, can somebody read translation, please?
From the darkness of all seas, of the five elements, namely the sky, is generated. Its subtle form is the quality of sound, exactly as the seer in the relationship with the scene. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Amit Prabhuji. And verses 26 through 29. This I shall read the verses and somebody can read the translation. Nabasota vikurvanat abhutsparsho gunah Paranvayach shabdavamscha prana oja saho balam vayorapi vikurvanat kala karma swabhavata udapatyatya tejo vai रूपवत् स्पर्श संभवात् तेजसस्तु विकुर्वाणात् असिदम्बोरसात्मकं रूपवत् स्पर्शवच्छम्भो घोषवच्च परान्वयात् विशेषस्तु विकुर्वाणात् अम्भसो गन्धवानभूत् परान्वयाद् रसस्पर्श शब्दरूपगुणान्वितः. Can somebody read this translation, please? Anyone can read.
I will go, Prabhuji.
Okay, please, Prabhuji.
Because the sky is transformed, the air is generated with the quality of touch, and by previous succession, the air is also full of sound and the basic principles of duration of life, sense perception, mental power, and bodily strength. When the air is transformed in course of time and nature's course, fire is generated, taking shape with the sense of touch and sound. Since fire is also transformed, there is a manifestation of water full of juice and taste. As previously, it also has a form and touch and is also full of sound. And water being transformed from all variegatedness on earth appears orders and as previously becomes qualitatively full of juice, touch, sound, and form respectively.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. And thank you all devotees for volunteering to read the shlokas and translations. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Panchatattvatmakam Krishna Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavatara Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langyate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Firstly, I would like to thank all of you for and welcome all of you for joining in today. For those who have joined a little later, I would like to offer my humble obeisances to all Vaishnavas present in this morning discussion of Bhagavatam arranged by Subal Prabhu. To begin with, I seek your prayers and your blessings so that I can do this service with the best of my capability. And just a disclaimer to all of you, none of whatever I am going to speak is knowledge that I personally possess. Rather, these are the teachings of the various Vaishnava Acharyas and my spiritual master and all the Vaishnavas who I have learned from, whatever knowledge that I have assimilated from all of them to present to you all today. But none of this belongs to me myself. I'm simply just presenting it as I've heard it. Just like the microphone cannot take any credit since it's only amplifying what is being spoken. So the microphone does not take credit for knowing or being the source of what is spoken or that knowledge or that intelligence. So similarly, I'm merely the instrument in this service, and I'm doing this for my own purification. With that being said, there is a verse in the Brihat Bhagavatamrita. In fact, it's the first verse. It's the opening verse where Sanatan Goswami, he says, Namah Shri Gopinathaya Srimad Chaitanya Devaya Tasmai Bhagavate Namah Yad Rupa Manim Ashritya Chitram Nityatyayam Jada. This verse, Sri Sanatan Goswami is saying that I offer my obeisances unto Sri Gopinath, and I offer my obeisances unto my spiritual master, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, on whose form and whose glories, when I meditate, I start dancing like a madman. So Sri Sanatan Goswami, when he describes that madman, he's actually referring to somebody like me, because I do not possess the qualification to talk about the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. But in our movement and in our Vaishnava culture, it is not necessary that who sits down and gives the class may possess the qualification. Rather, he is chosen by the listeners and he is empowered by the spiritual master and the Vaishnavas to do some justice and to speak. So this is rather his own fortune to be given this service. Actually, in Madhya Leela, there is a verse where it is said, Sadhu Sangha Nama Kirtan Bhagavata Shravan Mathura Vasa Shri Murti Rashraddhaya Sevan. So out of the Pancha Anga Bhakti, there is emphasis given on Nam Sankirtan and Bhagavata Shravan. We all are so fortunate to be hearing the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. And what if I told you we are even more fortunate than Maharaj Parikshit, who sat and personally heard the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam from the lips of Shukadeva Goswami. There is a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam. Nigamakalpatarur galitam phalam sukamukhad amrita drava samyutam pipata bhagavatam rasamalayam muhuruhu rasika bhuvi bhavukaha. So this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the most nectarian, the most juiciest of all the fruits, this nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam has become even more sweet. It is already sweet, but it has become even more sweet because it has been tasted by the sweet lips, the bird called Shukadev Goswami, the parrot called Shukadev Goswami. And because he has tasted that Srimad Bhagavatam, that fruit of Srimad Bhagavatam, and he's speaking it from his lips, so Srimad Bhagavatam has become even more sweeter. But as this Srimad Bhagavatam has been spoken and again retold, it becomes even more sweeter. So when Sutta Goswami, he again recites the Srimad Bhagavatam in Naimisharanya, the Bhagavatam becomes even more sweeter because now two parrots have bitten that fruit. So it becomes even more sweet. And then you will go on and see the teachings of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, his commentary, when he comments on Srimad Bhagavatam and we listen to those commentaries, that Bhagavatam, that form of Bhagavatam is even more sweeter. And then what to speak of when Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he retells that Srimad Bhagavatam. It becomes even more sweeter. And then those same teachings, when it is presented to us through the translations and purports of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, then those teachings even become more and more sweeter. And then what to speak of Srila Prabhupada, his disciples who are present here, when they speak the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam and all the teachings that are available today on Srimad Bhagavatam through all these Vaishnavas. Srimad Bhagavatam now has been its most refined, most sweetest form yet. So we all are so fortunate to be present here listening to the teachings of that Srimad Bhagavatam. The only question is, do we have the same sincerity as Parikshit Maharaj? Because the listener needs to inspire in order for the knowledge to be drawn from the speaker. With that being said, we need to express our gratitude to our spiritual masters, to the Vaishnava Acharyas, because there is a purport in Ramayana where it is said that these teachings of Bhagavatam, they're actually lofty fruits, present high up, situated on a tree. And now these fruits have been within our reach because the Vaishnava Acharyas have bent the branches through their mercy. So I request all of you to please put aside all your worries, all components of your life, and let us participate and partake in enjoying the nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam. It is so sweet that just like a rasgulla, from anywhere you bite it, it'll be sweet. So today we shall cover the topics of the second canto and the fifth chapter. It is stated that Maharaj Parikshit once inquired Sukadev Goswami about the primary and secondary creation, Sarga Visarga. We all know that there are 10 topics of Srimad Bhagavatam, out of which the primary and secondary creation are two of the topics. How does the Lord engage his Maya potency in the primary creation, and Lord Brahma and the Prajapatis in the secondary creation? Please explain this to me, O Sukadev Goswami. So then Sukadev Goswami, he goes into a meditation, and then he recalls a historical conversation that took place between Lord Brahma and Sri Narada Muni. And he tells Parikshit Maharaj, first he offers prayers, really beautiful prayers. And then he tells Parikshit Maharaj that I shall answer your question. In fact, what you have asked briefly has actually been asked in great detail by Sri Narada Muni, and it has been explained in even more greater detail by Lord Brahma. And I shall just recall that conversation. And this conversation between Lord Brahma and Sri Narada, it spans from 5th chapter until the 7th chapter of the second canto. So of which we shall cover verses 23 through 29. So Sri Narada Muni, he begins from the first verse itself. He says, Deva Deva Namastestu Bhuta Bhavana Purvaja. He is praising his father. Sri Narada Muni says, Oh my dear father, who is the firstborn of all the living entities, please kindly enlighten me. Narada Muni, he inquires about the creation by asking 6 questions. to Lord Brahma. And he asks them to answer those questions, which Lord Brahma does in the 5th and the 6th chapter. So what are those questions? He says, Yad Rupam, Yad Adhishthanam, Yathas Shrishtam, Idam Prabhu, Yat Samstham, Yat Param Yatcha, Tat Tatvam Vada Tatvata. So what are these 6 questions? He says, Yad Rupam. What are the symptoms of the material creation? Yat Adhishthanam. What is the background? Yatha Shrishtam. Who creates? Shrishti. Who creates? Yat Samstham. Who conserves it? And Yat Param. Who controls all of this? Yatcha Tattvam. What are the ingredients? So, and then Narad Muni, he goes on to glorify his father, Lord Brahma. And he presents to him his observations. So one should ask this question, that we all have seen in Srimad Bhagavatam that Narad Muni is such an exalted personality. But he seems to be asking such simple questions, which probably some of you all may know the answers to. So why is Sri Narad Muni, who's such an exalted personality, asking such simple questions? So we need to, that begs the question that who is Narada? So it is defined that Narada is the one who does the needful to bring out the glorification and the supremacy of the Supreme Lord. And how does he do that? So you will observe, sometimes he goes and he asks simple questions to Lord Brahma. And then sometimes he discusses even more esoteric topics to his disciples and to other Vaishnavas. We see in Bhagavatam, he goes to Prachina Barhi. Sometimes he discusses topics to not so exalted personalities like a hunter, Mrigari. And then sometimes to demons. So Sri Narad Muni is actually asking these questions for our benefit. So he's posing as if he does not know these answers, but very well he has the knowledge. He is a spiritual being. He is a liberated soul. So he understands these topics, but he's using this as an opportunity so that we all are enlightened. So what he's doing here, he's calling Lord Brahma as the supreme creator. He says, since you are the chief engineer of this creation, you should know everything. You should know the past, you should know the future, because you have been present throughout this creation. And you can know it just like a walnut that is held in the grip of your hand. And the word he uses is Kara Amalavat. What is Kara Amalaka Nyaya? Narada Muni is using a logic here that only somebody who holds a walnut in their hand, only they can describe the walnut properly. So just like that, oh Lord Brahma, since you have created this entire material world, you should know it in and out. So he presents his observation over here. So what is Narada Muni actually trying to do? Narada Muni is actually doing something really smart. He is trying to establish how Pratyaksha and Anuman based on Pratyaksha is faulty. So this brings us to a very interesting discussion, which is what is Pratyaksha and what is Anuman? So we have various ways of deducting knowledge, or how to arrive to a conclusion. The Vedas, they teach us of 3 different ways. Yeah, there is Pratyaksha Praman, Anuman Praman, and Shabda Praman. So Pratyaksha Praman and Anuman Praman, they fall under the empirical category of receiving knowledge through experimentation. Yeah. And Shabda Praman is the deductive process by hearing. So Pratyaksha is when you observe something through sense perception, and Anuman Praman is when you reach a conclusion through logical reasoning. Examples, if you look at the sun, if you utilize pratyaksha praman, your understanding can be, oh, even a coin can look as the size of the sun from your perspective. Yeah. And then anuman praman, to give you all an example. For example, you must be sleeping at night and, you might hear a car just pass by. So through your logical reasoning, you can conclude that, okay, just through the sound, I can conclude that probably there is a motor vehicle that is passing by because of the sound of the engine. But the limitations of pratyaksha and anuman is that we are using our senses. And because we are using our senses, our observations can be faulty. How do we know this? There are actually 4 defects of our senses. Can anyone tell what are those 4 defects? What are the 4 defects of our senses?
They have limitation.
Yes, Prabhu. So the senses are imperfect. What else? There are 4 defects. So Prabhu has said senses are imperfect. Can others name the 3 defects? This will be a good exercise.
They create desire.
Okay. Can anyone else tell us? What are the other 3 defects?
Individually, they can't do anything.
Okay. What else, Prabhu? Okay. So the first defect is that the senses are imperfect. The second defect is that because we are human beings, we tend to commit mistakes. The third, cheating propensity. And the fourth is that we are in illusion. So because of these 4 defects, anything that we ascertain through sense perception or logical reasoning will be faulty. And even the instruments that you build with your intelligence and your senses will also be limited. So scientists, they think, okay, because I cannot see so far, so let me build an instrument called a telescope so that I can see various planets and then make observations and conclusions. But what they don't realize is that you are making a machine with your own limited intelligence. So how can the product of that also be perfect? That is not possible. So the only way to understand topics on spiritual knowledge is not through pratyaksha and anuman, but through shabda. So this is what Narada Muni is trying to establish over here, that whenever you try to make any conclusion based on pratyaksha and anuman based on the pratyaksha, it is going to be faulty. So he goes on and he says, yat vikyano, yat adharo, yat parastvam, yat atmaka, ekas srijasi bhutani, bhutairevatma mayaya. So he's glorifying Lord Brahma. He's saying that, you have been present from before. You don't have to meditate to get strength from anywhere. You use your own strength to create this whole universe. And he describes Lord Brahma by using an analogy, the analogy of a spider. He calls Lord Brahma, he compares Lord Brahma to an Urnanabhi. Urnanabhi in Sanskrit is a spider. So we need to understand this is sort of like a recurring theme that occurs in the Bhagavatam, that whenever Urnanabhi is used, it is an analogy that indicates the supreme independence of the Supreme Lord. Let's see how. So a spider spins his own web. He creates it when he wants to. He doesn't look for any raw materials. He uses his own saliva to create the web. And when he desires, and if he doesn't want to, he can wind up the web. And after creating it, the spider can move through that web without any fatigue. Other insects can get caught in that web, but the spider moves easily in and out of his own web. So we can use this analogy to understand how the independence of the Supreme Creator. So Narada is comparing the spider with Lord Brahma. He says that, yeah, I have seen, when you desire, you create this material world. And I do not see that after creating it, you don't have to use any strength. You use your own intelligence and strength to create this material universe. And after you create it, I don't see you resting and recuperating in exhaustion. So this is my pratyaksha. So I am forced to conclude that you are actually the Supreme Creator, oh my dear Father. So who better than the son of Brahma, the most qualified, Sri Narada, to establish that pratyaksha, Anuman, Praman are actually faulty. So Narada, as he is describing Lord Brahma, then he inserts a doubt. He says only one activity of yours is a little off-putting. That even though you are the supreme, I see you perform very intense austerities. Is there somebody else that you are trying to please through these austerities? Who is supreme? So please, can you answer my questions? So Narad Muni has very meticulously presented all his observations, and he now inserts a doubt. So he's asking Lord Brahma to answer. And then Lord Brahma, in the 5th chapter, he begins to answer these questions. So whatever needs to be said to establish the supremacy of Lord Brahma has already been done by Narada. So Lord Brahma could have very easily claimed that he is the Supreme Lord. Just like if we go to Chaitanya Bhagavat, there is the example of Keshav Kashmiri, who just in a moment could compile 100 verses in glorification of the Mother Ganges. And he is the disciple of Mother Saraswati. So what to speak of that person who is that husband of Saraswati? And his body is made of pure intelligence. So that Lord Brahma could have very easily manipulated and presented arguments to force us to conclude that he is the Supreme. But what does Lord Brahma do? He says, Brahma uvacha samyak karunikassedam vatsase vikshitam sitam yadaham chodita saumya bhagavat virya darshane. So Lord Brahma, he is telling Narada that first, he is very happy for Narada to ask him such questions. And secondly, he tells Narada that you are actually very compassionate and kind to me to think that I am the Supreme. And I am so happy because you have now given me an opportunity. You have inspired me to meditate and glorify the object of my worship, which is that Supreme Lord. So this is how Lord Brahma begins. And he says, what you say is not false. He uses the word ritam. So ritam means true. Na artham means, so artham means false, ritam means true, artham means false. Na artham means not false. We see this this word is being recalled even by Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. So Lord Brahma is also saying what you say is na artham, which is not false. Your observation is not false, and even your conjecture is not false. There is an element of truth in what you're saying, but it's not entirely true. So what Brahmaji means by that? He's saying that it is actually because of the lack of knowledge that less intelligent think that I am actually the supreme. But there is a verse in Bhagavad Gita, Naham Prakasha Sarvasya Yoga Maya Samavrita Mudoyam Nabijanati Lokomam Ajam Avyayam. So even Lord Brahma, he is saying that forget me. The foolish might actually think that an imposter is the Supreme Lord, one living mortal. We see, there are so many bogus gurus all around. The one time there was a person who came to Srila Prabhupada and he said that, Srila Prabhupada, I have great faith in this sadhu. And Srila Prabhupada asked, why do you have faith in this person? So he said, because when he holds my hand, there is a jolt of energy that passes through me. And I feel, like a shock. So Srila Prabhupada said, you put your finger inside the socket, you will get that same experience. Or, people, they're completely enamored by cheap tricks, by somebody who can manifest small amounts of gold. But how does that indicate that such a person is supreme? To call such a person the Supreme Lord is utter foolishness. So Lord Brahma is also indicating the same thing here. That because people do not understand the Shastras, they think that actually I am supreme. But that is not the case. Actually, the Lord creates, the Supreme Lord, he creates, and I only recreate what he creates. And this is called Pishta Peshana Nyaya. Pishta or Pisna, which is when you're kneading or when you're grounding the atta. That is called Pisna or Pishta. So what is this logic? It is when you grind the wheat to its most finest component or texture, and the machine cannot grind it any further. It has reached its most finest that it can ever be. So beyond that, the machine is not capable of grinding it any further. So this is what Brahma is saying, that the Lord has already created everything. There is nothing much for me to do. I just recreate what he creates. So even without me, this whole creation can take place. Then Lord Brahma, in the next verse, he says, just see the potency of that supreme personality of Godhead that makes, so one of his energies, just one of the energies of the spiritual, of the Supreme Lord, the external potency, makes people think that actually I am the Jagat Guru. So then what to speak of the potency of that Supreme Lord? He is so great that even without his desire and his constant supervision, even I cannot create. So this is what Lord Brahma is saying. Then, as he proceeds further, Brahmaji, he answers the first question. So what was the first question? Yad Rupam. What are the symptoms? So he does that in the 14th verse by stating, Dravyam Karma Cha Kalascha. So this universe is actually made of 5 elements. Whatever you see in this universe can be categorized in these 5 elements. Can anyone name them? What are these 5 elements?
Earth, fire,
Punchable.
water, punch,
Those are
space.
the gross elements. What are the components that make up the universe? What you're describing is the 5 ingredients. But what are the 5 components? I know it sounds the same, but actually it's different. Anyone?
Sorry, can you repeat yourself, Prabhu? Maybe I
So,
didn't understand.
the universe is made of 5. Yes, Prabhu?
Bhumi, Anal, like that.
No, Mataji. These are what you're referring to are the 5 gross elements. I'm talking, or the 5 ingredients. I'm talking about just in common the 5 elements.
Like
that-
nitrogen, oxygen, like that.
No, Mataji.
Three,
You're
three,
describing probably one
three
of the
forces of
gross.
nature. Three
The three
modes of
modes will come later, Prabhu.
then the
So
mind,
what
intelligence, mind,
it
knowledge.
is in the shloka. Dravyam karma cha kalascha swabhavam cha jivina.
Okay, time.
Okay. So you need the space, place, and then someone who is working like that.
Okay, very close, Mataji. Almost there. Anyone else would like to attempt?
One is iksha, to do something,
Okay, so karma.
karma, and the doer, one who is
Okay.
doing, and
Jiva.
one
So
one who is
we got two things. What are the other
one who
three?
is giving the permission to do the work.
Okay, that is also included in karma.
Okay.
What else? Okay, fine. So what are these five components? It is there in the shloka. Dravya, karma, kala, swabhava, and jiva. These are the five elements. Okay. Now, what you all are describing, bhumir, apo, analo, vayu, kham, mano, buddhir. Yeah. So bhumir, apo, anala, vayu, kham. These five ingredients are present in dravya. And we will see what is dravya later on. Then karma. Karma is what the living entity deserves. Kala is the eternal time, which is the energy of the Supreme Lord. Swabhava is what the living entity desires due to his nature. And Jiva is this living entity. So you can say that out of this, so Dravya is the energy of the Lord. Karma and Swabhava are components of Jiva, and Kala is also the energy of the Lord. So all this put together, anything you see in this material universe, not just, I'm just not talking about our planet, but everywhere within this material realm, it is made up of these five components. And within these five components, you will see there will be various more components and elements. So these are the building blocks of the universe. They are all non-different from Vasudeva. This is the opinion of Lord Brahma. That since all of these things are emanating from Narayana, from Vasudeva, the energy and the energetic are non-different. So all these five elements are non-different from Vasudeva. Then comes the answer to the next question. What is the shelter of this universe? So everything, Lord Brahma says, everything is dependent on Lord Narayana. If you think, so he says, Narayana Paraveda, Narayana Parotapa, Narayanam Param Jnanam. He's saying, if you think that everyone is dependent on the knowledge, then even that knowledge is dependent on Lord Narayana. If you think everyone is dependent on the demigods, then Lord Narayana is the shelter of those demigods. So here he's using a very important word, Lord Brahma. He's using the word para. So para indicates two things, the source and the shelter. So Lord Narayana is not only the source, but also the shelter. And he is the total cause, the causation. And how do we understand this? If we see what are the Vedic literatures? Yeah. Vedeshta Sarvair, Ahameva Vedya, Vedanta Krit Veda Videva Chaham. So the Vedic literatures, they are actually created from Narayana. As Karana Dakshaya Vishnu's breathing, his breathing creates the Vedic hymns. So all the Vedic literatures, they emanate from Karana Dakshaya Vishnu. So the Lord is the cause of that knowledge. But without the presence of the Lord, there is no use of that knowledge. So he is not only the source, but the shelter. You may see that in the Vedic literatures, it may not directly talk about Lord Narayana in some cases. It may cover various other topics. But indirectly, the source and all the teachings are indicating towards Lord Narayana. So without the presence of the Lord, there is no use of all these teachings. That is what Lord Brahma is trying to state through these shlokas. So then Narada, he is now sitting there, he's thinking that, okay, my father, he's stating that he's not doing anything. So then what is he doing? Is this post that has gone wasted? That, the Lord has created this post of Brahma, but he's saying he's not doing anything. What is he doing then in Satyaloka? So he's asking questions that, okay, the Lord may have created you, but after creating you, at least you must be independent. After that, you must be supreme. So then Lord Brahma, he answers, Iksha Yaiva Bichodita, that even after being created, he inspires me to create further. So I'm not independent. Okay, then Narada, he says, okay, fine, agreed. After creating you, after inspiring you, at least then you must be creating independently. To that, Brahma says, no. Srijam Srijami Srishtoham, that the Lord creates and gives it to me, and then I recreate it. Then Narada says, okay, fine, Prabhu. At least after recreating, you must be doing things yourself. Then Brahma says, no, my dear, Drashtuhu. He constantly observes me. Being the super soul in my heart, he guides me, and I am completely dependent upon him. I do not do anything. So when Lord Brahma is saying that I do not do anything, that I'm not needed in this process of creation, should we accept it as a fact? So actually, that is not true. Lord Brahma, he is expressing his humility. So his humility should not be taken as fact. Just like sometimes whatever is being spoken in the scriptures, sometimes there are statements made by devotees. They should not be taken on face value. To give you all an example, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he states that actually I am worser than Jagai Madhai. In fact, I am like the stool, I am like the worm present in the stool. So we should not read those passages and think, yeah, he must be true. It all must be true. We cannot do that. This is but a figure of speech. The devotees sometimes express their humility, and depending on the mood of what they're feeling in that moment, they express it in that verse. But that is not indicative of the fact. To give you all another example, in the third canto, there is a verse, Durapahi alpa tapasa seva vaikuntha vartmasu. So in this verse, it's translated as, for someone who does very meager austerities, the opportunity to serve the Vaishnavas is rare. Now, can we accept this statement as truth? No, it is not. It's not true. It is not that you need to do a lot of austerities to attain the association of Vaishnavas. Rather, the Vaishnavas need to be merciful to give their association to all of us. But this verse has been spoken by Vidura to Maitreya Rishi. And Vidura, in that mood, in that time, he's actually expressing his gratitude to Maitreya by saying that I value your time and your association, because I understand how rare it is to find the association of a Vaishnava. So this is actually, you need to understand whatever you read, you also need to understand what is the mood of the speaker when he's speaking those verses. So this begs the question that why are the scriptures so indirect? Yeah. Why do we need so many commentaries to understand the scriptures? Why does it have to be revealed to us? Why can't the scriptures be self-revealing? But that cannot be, because we are not well versed with the social customs or the mannerisms or the way things were spoken back then. So, in order to understand what is being spoken, we require the disciplic succession and the commentaries of the acharyas. So, hence, whatever is being spoken here by Lord Brahma, it is not that Brahma doesn't do anything. He is also there, he is involved in the creation. But it is out of humility that he is saying that, I do not do anything, everything is done by the Lord. Of course, Lord Brahma has a role to play in the creation. Then Lord Brahma goes on and he establishes the hierarchy. He says, from the Supreme Lord comes the Maya Shakti. From the Maya Shakti comes the three modes of material nature. And from those three modes come the Jiva. And I am one of those Jivas. So, how can you compare a conditional soul like me to the Supreme Lord? So, Lord Brahma has established very beautifully, he has established the Sambandha Gyan and the supremacy of the Lord through answering these two questions. So, I hope so far everything is clear. Then let us move on to the third question. He answers the third question. Yatha Shishtam, who creates, or how is the material universe created? And he quotes the verse. So he is referring to the Lord as Mayesha. Maya Isha, or the Lord of the material Shakti, the Maya Shakti. So which Lord is he referring to? Does anyone have any idea?
Devi. Maya Devi, Prabhu.
No, he's referring to Lord. Maya Isha. Who is the Lord of the material energy? So which Lord is he referring to?
Durga. Goddess Durga.
Oh, the God. No. Goddess Durga is Maya. He's referring to the Isha, the controller of Maya. Who is that controller? Who is he referring to?
Narayana only.
Yeah, Narayana. But which form of Narayana?
So that
Oh, Mahavishnu.
Mahavishnu. That's the answer. Thank you, Prabhu. That is the answer. Prabhu said Mahavishnu or Karanodakshai Vishnu. So Karanodakshai Vishnu is the master of Maya Shakti. And then he goes on and says in the verse, Vibhu Bhushuhur. So what is Vibhu Bhushuhur? If we split this word, it means, so Vibhu means many. And Vibhu Bhushuhur means desiring to become many. So that one Lord desired to become many. We see sometimes in Bhagavad Gita and in Bhagavatam, there are descriptions, Eko Bahu Syamaha, that one Lord desired to become many. So this statement can be misunderstood. This does not indicate that the living entities were created. In one of the lectures, Bhanu Swami Maharaj, he said, great detail needs to be put to understand that it is not that only the Lord existed before and the living entities were created. In fact, the first teaching of Bhagavad Gita talks about this, about the eternality of the soul. Does anyone know the verse in Bhagavad Gita? What is that verse?
Sorry. What was the question? Sorry, Radha.
The question is that what is that verse in Bhagavad Gita that talks about the eternality of the soul?
Oh, okay. I don't know the two. I can't. Okay, it's like the soul can't be killed. It can't be wet. It can't be dry.
No,
Then-
that is later on. But the first teaching, where the Lord says, neither you nor me we both have always existed in the past, and we will never get destroyed, neither will we cease to exist in the future. What is that verse?
The Hindu that's how they is.
Asmin is later on. That is the transmigration of the soul from one body to another body. That is the second teaching. Verse, for those of you all who do not remember, it is Natve Vaham Jatunasa, Natvam Neme Janadipa, Nachaiva na Bhavishyamaha, Sarva Vayamata Param. Where the Lord is telling Arjuna, you and I have always existed in the past, and neither will, and so do all these kings, and neither will they get destroyed, nor you and I will cease to exist. So this is the eternality of the soul, and it's the first teaching of Bhagavad Gita, even before Dehino Asmin. So then, that begs the question, so how do we interpret this statement that one Lord decided to become many? So we need how to interpret the scriptures. So Jiva Goswami gives a very amazing tool. He says, Purva Apara Anurodena. We need to understand like this. When was the thing spoken? When was it spoken? When was it spoken later on? By whom? And what was established by what is being spoken? So basically, establish context. We need to understand the context of what is being spoken. So whenever the statement that the Lord desired to become many is used, it refers to the time of creation. Before creation, all living entities, they reside in the body of Karanodakshai Vishnu. So the material world is bereft of all living entities. So I hope this is clear. The material world is bereft of all living entities except the Lord himself. So then it is easily understood that that Lord who desired to become many is actually Karanodakshai Vishnu. Because in the spiritual world, the Lord is already present with all his associates. What is the shloka? The first Chatushloki of Bhagavatam. Ahameva samevagre jnanyat yat sadasatparam. That at the time of dissolution and at the time of creation, only he remains. So who is he? The Supreme Lord. And where does he remain? In his own abode, the spiritual world. With whom? With all his associates, all his devotees. So the one who desires to become many cannot be that Supreme Lord. He has to be Karanodakshai Vishnu before the creation. Please pay attention to this statement. Okay, this is very important. So therefore, Vibhubhushuhur indicates it is time for creation. And in creation, so how does the creation take place? The Lord, he exhales out unquantifiable amounts of universes and then impregnates them with jivas through the agency of the Maya Shakti, Mayaya. So it is said these universes, they are unquantifiable. We can't put a number to it. To give you all a visual, think of an ocean, and in that ocean, which you can't tell the limits of that ocean. Think of the bubbles that are clustered in the foam of the waves in that ocean. And one of those bubbles can represent one universe. So like that, how many such bubbles shall be floating in the foam of that entire ocean? This is just, to use your imagination to think of what is exactly outside this universe, or how is this creation taking place. So I hope that was a great visual. Then in verse 21, Brahmaji continues Kalam karma swabhavam cha. So the Lord glances at this material creation. So what he's doing, what is that glance represented as? Kalam karma swabhavam cha. So we know the verse in Bhagavad Gita, Maya Adhyakshena Prakritihi. That Adhyakshena is his glance. And the components of that glance consists of Kalam, Karma, Swabhavam, of which Kalam is the energy of the Lord. Karma and Swabhavam are the Jiva Tattva. So when the universes are exhaled, they are actually in their seed form. They are not developed universes. They are not fully functioning universes that contain the 14 planetary systems. This is explained in one of the lectures by Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. He says that what comes out is actually Pradhana. Pradhana is like it is like a homogeneous state. We will discuss it further. What exactly is Pradhana? Before that, I would like to discuss what does impregnation mean? What does it mean when it is stated that the Lord impregnates the Maya Shakti? It actually means the Jiva. So the Jivas are representative of Kala, Karma, and Swabhava. And that is what is being impregnated to this material creation. And as he is doing this, the Lord does not come in contact with Maya, but his creation is taken place through the agency of his other Shakti, which is known as the Shambhu Tattva. So the Lord never comes in contact with the material energy. In fact, the Lord, through his own agency, through his own energy, through Shambhu, he does the material creation. So the impregnation of the jivas into the material energy is done through Shambhu. And what is the evidence of this? It is there in Brahma Samhita. Shiram yatha dadi vikara vishesha yoga. That just like when the milk is curdled with acid, it forms yogurt. So that yogurt, as chemically, it is different from the milk, but actually the source is the milk. So it is the same, but actually it is different. So this is to say that Lord Shiva or the Shambhu Tattva, it's an entire topic in its own sense. So we will not discuss more on that today. But it is sufficing to say that the Lord never comes in contact with Maya, but he does it through Shambhu. So karma and swabhava, they indicate the jiva. Have you all heard this? So coming to Pradhana, have you all heard about this primordial soup theory? Anyone?
No, Prabhuji.
Okay. So to quickly describe this primordial soup theory, it talks about, there was once this homogeneous liquid state which contained all the ingredients for life. And it was struck by lightning. And that's how life was born in this planet. That is a thesis in the 1940s by a Russian scientist. So actually, if you study this primordial soup theory, you'll understand that they have borrowed the teachings from our Shastras, that the glance of the Lord can actually be compared to the lightning. And that lightning, when it strikes that primordial soup, that homogeneous state, which we can call as pradhana, then everything gets activated. So it is not actually pradhana is not like a liquid. It's just a homogeneous, non-differentiated state. It has no physical properties. So each universe has its own pradhana, and within that pradhana, the three modes are inactive. So what is pradhana? So to give you all a very crude example, in a restaurant, there is always storage, a storage room, which contains, or like a pantry or a cold store, which contains all the ingredients for creation, or for cooking in this example. So all the ingredients are stored in that pantry, and it is locked. So in its locked state, it is called as pradhana. So pradhana is actually, it contains all the ingredients for creation, but they are inactive or dormant. And that activation is done by the glance of the Lord. So when the Lord glances, the three modes of material nature are agitated. And this activated state of pradhana is called Mahattattva. So Mahattattva, again, to bring you back to that crude example, is when somebody comes and opens the lock of that cold store and brings out all the ingredients. So then you will see there'll be a lot of traffic, a lot of things are brought from the cold store, brought to the kitchen and assembled. So the person who opens the lock of that cold storage is Karanadakshay Vishnu through his glance, and all the ingredients are the three modes of material nature which are agitated. Yeah, so through this example, they are moved to the kitchen. So then this Mahattattva, it transforms into Ahankara of three types. What are the Ahankaras? Satvika Ahankar, Rajasa Ahankar, and Tamasa Ahankar. So the Satvika Ahankar is represented by the mind. Rajasa Ahankar is represented by intelligence and prana. And Tamasa Ahankar is the Tanmatras, or the five elements and sense objects. This is called as Karana Shrishti. So this creation till now, whatever has taken place, is known as Karana Shrishti, which is the creation of the ingredients. So all this effort of going to the cold store and bringing the ingredients and placing it in the kitchen, this is called Karana Shrishti. But just keeping the ingredients or just assembling it alone is not creation. So just by assembling all the ingredients, you cannot create the dish. Somebody has to put those ingredients meticulously together and manifest the dish. So who is that person who puts it all together?
Brahma.
No, it is not Brahma. Who is the person?
Shakti Devi, Maya Devi.
No, it's not Maya Devi as well. These are all secondary. They come in at a later stage. But who does it? Who is the person who puts those ingredients together?
The another form of Vishnu.
Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Garbhodakshaya Vishnu.
Yes, that's correct, Prabhu. Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. So that person who takes those ingredients, puts it together and prepares that meal in the kitchen. Again, I'm using very crude example so that all of us understand this very technical topic. That is Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. He takes all the ingredients that are already present. He takes those ingredients and then he creates. And what does he create? And what is the process of that creation? That is known as Karya Shrishti, or the creation of the functioning universe. So Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, he enters into each universe and gives it life and creates the 14 planetary systems. So we have Sarga, the Sarga and Visarga. So Sarga has two components, the Karana Shrishti and the Karya Shrishti. So we have discussed Karana Shrishti. Now we'll talk a little bit about Karya Shrishti. Sarga is done by the Purusha avatars, and Visarga, the secondary creation, is done by Brahmaji and the Prajapatis. So this chapter, the 5th chapter, covers Karana and Karya Shrishti. So Lord Brahma goes on and says, Purusha Distita Dabhut. Under the Lord's direction. So the Lord's direction is present, but his direct involvement is not there. In the 23rd verse, the word Vikurvanat is used, which means transformed. So what is transformed? Yeah. It is not that the Lord is only present in the beginning and then after that is then everyone else takes over. No. His constant assistance at every stage is needed. So what is the verse? To go on with text 23. Mahatastu vikurvanat raja satvopra brahmitat tama pradhanastvabhavat dravya jnana kriyatmaka. So that Mahat Tattva, which is made predominantly of Rajas and Tamas, further transforms into Ahankar, which is again then divided into 3 categories. And this is explained in text 24, that this Ahankar is made of Adibhuta, Adhyatma, and Adidaiva. Please let us not confuse this with the 3 the 3 defects, which is Adibhuta, Adhyatma, and Adhyatmic and Adidaivik. That is a different topic, and this is different. This is referring to the category of Ahankara, which is Adibhuta, that is the Tamasa, which is the 5 gross elements. That is called as Dravya Shakti. Then Adhyatma is actually a component of Rajasa Ahankar. It consists of the senses, the intelligence, plus prana. And it is known as the Kriya Shakti. Then we talk about Adidaiva, which is the Satvika Ahankar. And it consists of the mind and the sense devatas. This is known as the Jnana Shakti. So all this put together makes up the Ahankar. So let us talk a little bit about what are all these. We have heard so many things. Dravya Shakti, Kriya Shakti, Jnana Shakti. What is all this? So let us define the Karmendriyas. What are the Karmendriyas? Can anyone tell me? The 5 active instruments.
Mouth, ears, nose, eyes.
No. What you're talking are, the gross senses which we learn in biology. As per the Shastras, as per the Vedic literatures, what are the 5 Karmendriyas?
Hands, legs.
Yes, correct. So hands, legs. So all this, what exactly, can you present it in a more subtler form? So that would be speaking, holding,
Speaking, holding.
moving, or procreating, yeah, or eliminating. This makes the 5 Karmendriyas. Then you have the 5 Gyanendriyas. What are the 5 Gyanendriyas?
Jnanendriyas are eyes, nose.
No, those are the sense objects, Prabhu.
Mhm.
We're talking about the Gyanendriyas. So hearing, touching,
Hearing,
seeing.
seeing, feeling,
Yes.
sense
This
of touch. Okay.
is the cognitive senses. Yeah, these are for cognition, the Gyanendriyas. So this is called as the Jnana Shakti, and whatever the Karmendriyas are, the Kriya Shakti, along with Prana. So Gyanendriyas represent the Buddhi. The Gyanendriyas, they get their strength from Buddhi. And the Karmendriyas, they get their strength from Prana. And then text 25 talks about how the Tanmatras are created from the Tamasa Ahankar, from the subtlemost to the grossest. So the Tanmatras are actually subtler than the element. This is there in the purport. So what do I mean by that? So first, what is created? How the tanmatras are created? It starts with the sound. Yeah. So anavriti shabdat. First, the sound is created. Then from sound, what is created? The sky. Then from the sky, touch is created. From touch, air is created. From air, form is created. From form, fire is created. From fire, taste is created. From the taste, water is created. And from water, fragrance or odor is created. And from odor, the earth is created. Prana, oja, saho, balam. So the grossest of the elements. So over here, I have just listed down the tanmatras. What is the most subtlemost form here? The subtlest of all these elements. Can anyone say? I just mentioned them. What is the subtlemost?
Sound.
Sound is the subtlemost. What is the most grossest?
Earth.
Earth. Okay. Now keep this in mind. So if I ask you all the question, which element contains all the tanmatras? What is the answer?
Earth.
Earth.
Yeah.
Perfect. We all understand. Because earth is the last in the creation. All of these items, from the subtlemost to the grossest, everything is being created. So actually, the earth will consist of odor, taste, form, touch, and sound. But when we come to water, water is missing. What is water missing?
Fragrance.
Order or
Fragrance.
fragrance. Yeah.
Yeah,
Order.
fragrance.
Yes.
Similarly, we can say fire will be missing the taste.
Taste.
Yeah? If you try to taste fire, you will lose your tongue, but you cannot taste the fire. I guarantee. So fire has no taste. And then the air has no form. You might say, oh, but what about, we see sometimes tornadoes. Or sometimes, we see that air has fragrance. If you try to smell the LPG, you get a fragrance. But that is actually not the air. Air actually carries, it can carry the fragrance, or it can carry sometimes components of the earth. Yeah, this is, there is a word, Vayor Gandhani Vashayat. Yeah. So the air has the strength to carry other senses. They carry the senses to the sense objects. But air itself doesn't have fragrance or form. Yeah. So with this, I come to the conclusion of our topics. What I would like to do right now, before I conclude, is all of us just, you can unmute your mics and let us just quickly in 2 minutes summarize the topics for today. In 2 minutes, it doesn't have to be one person. You all can randomly, unmute your mics and say whatever you understood from today.
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhu, I can hear you.
Yeah. I think while it is just too much too much to add, I think it's like school. We need a revision at least throughout the day, throughout the throughout the month. But what I could understand a little bit is that basically how the material creation, or rather the seed of how the material creation starts, and how it then delegated down below by the Lord in his own various forms. through his own various forms and through his various energies, how the life is then generated on this planet, or rather, sorry, not the planet. I mean, how the universe is created through his will, through his thought, using his various forms of Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, Shivarakshai Vishnu, and how and how using the Karya Shakti, sorry, I'm not able to recollect all of those, but how using all his energies, if I have to use the word energy, how through using all his potential material energies, he then creates and delegates, if I have to use the word, delegates his authority to various other, his own forms, and how the whole thing is then created.
Okay. Somebody else would like to thank you so much, Amit Prabhu, for that summary. Somebody else would like to add something to that?
Yes, Prabhuji. So basically, Narada Maharshi asked Brahma about couple of questions like symptoms, background, who creates, who consumes, who controls. So in that answer, Brahmaji explaining the creation. So we understood primary creation, secondary creation. This is Sarga Visarga, and we discussed about different pramans. So Pratyaksha Praman, Anuman Praman, Shabda Praman. So then in that sense, we understood that our defects are, our senses are not perfect. So it has got defects. Then we understood that we need a 5 components that make universe. So the karma, doer, kala, which is time, swabhava, and jiva. Then we use the energy of the Lord, which is the dravya. So in creation of these things. Then that how that this Mahatattva is created, who created Mahatattva. So that we understood that one, the role of the Karanodaksha Vishnu. Then how the Garbhodaksha Vishnu take all these ingredients. So this prana is created, then we Garbhodaksha Vishnu, from Karanodaksha, then Garbhodaksha Vishnu comes into the picture. And how this Satvika Ankar, Rajasa Ankar, Tamasa Ankar, those things are used in creating the Karya Srishti. So Karana Srishti is done, life is done, then Karya Srishti, the functioning of universe has been done. Then we understood the order, or which are the subtle motions, the grossest most. So the sound, the sky, touch, air, fire, taste, water, order, and earth. So earth will contain everything, and sound is the starting one. Yes, Prabhu.
This is a beautiful summary, Prabhu. Thank you so much. You have summarized the whole class uh, in in the right sequence. So thank you so much for that. There are things that even you have reminded me. So I thank you all for joining in today. And as in conclusion, I would like to thank Srila Prabhupada, my spiritual master, and all the Vaishnavas, all of you Vaishnavas, to give your time and to participate in hearing the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. And I would like to offer my uh, sincere forgiveness in case I committed any offense in due course in trying to explain the topics of Bhagavatam. With that, I would like to conclude this, and I would open it up for question answers. If anyone has any questions, we can discuss for a few minutes. Is that okay, Prabhu? We can have question answers.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. If anyone has any questions, please you may feel free to ask.
Amit Prabhuji raised his hand. So
Prabhu, you have
Krishna. Yes, Prabhu. Sorry, as usual, I do have questions.
oh, no, please. I don't know who discourages you to ask questions. Please, you must ask questions.
No one discourages me, but thank you. No, even if they discourage, I have my own questions, so I will ask. All right. Bro, here, one of the questions which I have is like you're just mentioning that multiple universes are created by the Lord, right? Like you gave the example of the bubble and the foam and so I understood. I got that point. Now I just wanted to understand that now since there are like now we have our universe. We have our universe and there are uh, planetary system, like you have 7 above and 7 below the Bhutala, right? So like this, just wanted to understand now, all the universe has a replica or is it different? Is it different? I mean, is it that all the universes that have the same structure or is it different or just wanted to understand, I'm not sure. It makes sense.
Prabhu is asking, in all the universes, in Bhagavatam, we have an idea of the 14 planetary systems. So, do all the individual universes consist of the same order of the 14 planetary systems? I hope I got your question. Yes, Prabhu?
Yes, absolutely.
So, to answer your question, firstly, it's a wonderful question to ask, and you have just ignited the desire in me to explain this even more. So actually, if you see, this is described in detail in the 5th canto of Bhagavatam. There is description of there is not much that is being described about the components of the other universes, but there are specific geographical elements within our own cosmology that is specific to us. For example, within our universe, it is said that the outer coverings of the universe, which are made of the 5 elements and then the 3 subtle elements. So all those uh, coverings of the universe have actually been sort of destroyed by the toenail of Vamandev. A portion of that covering has been destroyed by Vamana when he appears. Because as he raises his leg in the sky, he pierces the coverings. And through that coverings, the causal ocean in which all these universes are floating, that enters. And it is collected by Brahma. So it is said that our universe is that universe. How do we identify where we come from? So our universe is that universe where Lord Brahma has 4 heads. And we are that universe which is pierced by the toenail of Vamandev. Because, and how do I state this? It is actually said that when Lord Brahma visits the spiritual world, he is stopped by the Vaikuntha, the Vishnu Dutas, and he asks the Vishnu Dutas. They inquire from Lord Brahma that which Brahma are you? So at that time, Lord Brahma states that I come from that universe which is pierced by the toenail of Vamandev. So I am that Chaturmukha Brahma. Actually, when Lord Krishna, when the Brahma Vimohan Leela takes place, all the Brahmas from various creations, they come. Brahma, he is flabbergasted to see there are some who contain 5, some 10 heads, some hundreds of heads, millions of heads. But why are they consisting only, why is Brahma having only 4 heads, but there are some who have 1,000,000 heads? It is because some of those universes are actually even more bigger. And they may contain even more planets than us. It is said that our universe is actually one of the standard, more smaller universes out of the many that are present. So to manage that, only a 4-headed Brahma is needed.
Different, okay, but there is a different story altogether as to why Brahma has 4 heads because of Lord Saraswati, and he wanted to see her everywhere, so he created his own 4 heads and one on the top. So then Shiva cuts off his one on the top. I mean, that's another way of, sorry, interpretation of why Brahma has 4 heads.
There are multiple interpretations of why Brahma has 4 heads. And the other interpretation is also because there are 4 Vedas that are being spoken. So each Veda is being spoken by one head of Brahma. So you will see in the scripture, there is not always one reason. You will see there are multiple explanations for the same thing. But when we view it from the perspective of cosmology, then it is sufficing to say that because our universe is not that big, so to manage that universe, we only need a Brahma who has 4 heads. This is there in the 5th canto of Bhagavatam. And then it is also there in a purport, I think in the 8th canto of Bhagavatam, where Prabhupada talks about this. And then this has been retold in a lecture by Gaurang Prabhu. So does this answer your question, Prabhu?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, in the sense, I just still wanted to understand, like now, if there are, say, universe 1, 2, 3, 4. So does the 6th universe also have the 14 planetary systems? That's what my actually question is.
So if there are bigger universes, then they can. Our assumption is that they can
have more. Yeah.
More planets. It can be even more variegated.
More.
But when we talk about universes, we tend to talk about distances and size, but that is all very, it is very gross. If we look at the Goloka chart, millions of yojanas between every single planet, but the distance is actually a very subtle thing because it is traversed by your physical body. It is traversed, it is taken by your subtle body, where you need to space. That is how the travel takes place. So, other universes which are even more bigger, we can say that, in distance it might be even. This is explained to some degree in Surya Siddhanta and the theory but for our understanding, because we belong to this universe, so through the Gayatri mantra, Bhu Bhuva Swaha, we understand it is divided in 3 categories. There is the Swargaloka planets and then the upper planets, Mahajanas, Tapas, and Satya. And then we have the 7 lower planetary systems. So this is just the general idea.
Fine, Prabhu.
There are actually multitudes of planets. Yeah. In fact, it is said that into the sky at night, every single star is actually a star. It belongs to Swargaloka planetary system. The planetary system is not just a single planet. It's a cluster of planets. Actually, a system of stars, and all those stars in all of them together comprise as the heavenly planets. So, like that, you have a system of stars situated one above the other, almost like a chandelier, like a cake, layered one on top of the other, each being a planet that is situated above based on your capacity, your spiritual Shakti. You can ascend to those various planets. So Bhagavatam just roughly about the 14 planets.
Yeah.
But we can actually have millions of planets. In fact, if we understand the true size of the universe, it is said each covering of the universe is 10 times the size of the previous. So actually, Bhumandala is represented just like seed. The actual universe is just the seed, and then you have the coverings, which makes it quite a big universe. So this is the
No,
understanding.
because it's always curious. It's very curious for me, the cosmology, because we see NASA discovered 16 million light years. They see some planet. I was just listening something yesterday. They found a planet which is 4 times the size of Earth. It is totally covered with water, but the temperature on that planet they've discovered is almost 200 to 300 degrees Celsius. So, I mean, it always gives me curious. So sometimes I feel, oh, okay, it might be some other locations.
This is a beautiful topic. Again, we'll have to do another cosmology session where we
Thank
can
you for this.
delve deeper into this, but I'm just limited by time. That's all. If I could answer your question. Yeah. So if there are any more questions, then Prabhu, what you all can do is you all can message Subal Prabhu or the devotees who manage this, and they can reach out to me and I can try and answer your questions. Yeah. So thank you very much for joining in today. I hope you all continue in this journey of reading Srimad Bhagavatam regularly, and not only just reading, but deeply trying to understand the teachings of Bhagavatam. Yeah. So thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.